What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Saminos out here, and today we're doing something different. There's no gaming right now. We're just talking, me and you. And I decided to do this because I wanted to switch it up a little bit, I'm always doing gaming, coming from Twitch to my YouTube channel with my old channels. But today, I'm like, let's go down an unbeaten path. So we're going to try doing some gaming news. Because I saw something today, and I was like, I got to look into it. Because it kind of upset me, but I was like, let me just research it a little bit and see if I can make some sense of this, even though I'm really not the best in terms of business. But I just wanted to see if I could, find some more context on it. I saw Angry Joe talking about it. Shout out Angry Joe Show. But I was like, I don't understand because it doesn't make sense considering what's been going on, what's continuing to go on. So I was like, let me just look at some articles. Because some people on the internet like to clickbait, and then when you look at the article, you're like, oh, well, that's not exactly what they're saying. But no disrespect to, Angry Joe Show. Just in terms of other people, you just type in on Google and you see news articles and they post no context to what they're talking about. So I decided to look into it. And yes, Take-Two is actually laying off about 600 employees. And it's very interesting that they're doing it because to me, I'm like, wouldn't you need these employees? Yeah, around 600, 579 is what they're talking about, right? And the reason why people are really upset about this is because of the fact that the CEO last year, Zelnick, he got a increase to his salary by double. Well, it was shares and money, but he basically doubled his income for that fiscal year because they were talking about how they had just acquired a mobile gaming industry, and they were like, hey, we're making record revenue, which I also thought was strange because in the same article that I saw that, it says revenue was up 53%, but the company lost $1.12 billion of net profits after years. So I don't really want to say how that works because you say you're giving this man a bonus pretty much because revenue was up, but your net sales were down. So help me make that make sense. I'm going to post links to the articles that I got this information from so you can have context and read it for yourself. But yeah, so very confusing as to how that's happening. Now, if you continue to look into some of the other information, it continues to get a little bit more confusing because at the same time they're saying that, they're also having issues with GTA 6 in terms of them saying they might delay it. And it's like, well, if you're delaying the title and Rockstar said they need people to get back into the office to help bump up production for GTA 6, you would think that they could maybe just take some of that profit that they gave to their CEO and just give it to more developers to then work on the game and, help make your game come out faster because they lost shares. Shares went down when they announced that GTA 6 might get delayed. So you would think that that would be the last possible thing you'd want to do is to put that information out that the game that everyone's hyped for might get delayed. It's neither here nor there because to a degree, GTA 6 is still going to sell like crazy. I mean, when GTA 5 came out, it sold like crazy and it continued to sell because they were releasing, DLC packs and all the other things for it. So it continued to build them revenue. But you would think that they would try to avoid spilling that information out. I guess they do have to tell their shareholders what's going on. You can't withhold the information. Now, on the article that I was looking at, it was very strange because Zelnick was just talking about in February how they didn't want to lay off any employees based on this reduction plan that they are doing. And then, come to find out, here we are in April, they're going to do it. And what's, again, more frustrating is the fact that last year, apparently, they said the same thing. They were doing a reduction plan, and they had no plans to lay off employees, and then they laid them off. So it's like, that's like your boss coming up to you and being like, hey guys, I made a lot of money on a bonus, this period. We're gonna have to make some cuts here and there, and you're thinking like, oh, we might, downsize some of the product we have on the shelves and focus on the ones that do sell, but we're still going to be able to keep the core. And they're like, yeah, no one's getting fired or laid off, we're all going to be good. And then 2 months down the road, they're like, oh yeah, plot twist, we are actually going to be laying some of you off. And it's like, you just made all that money. And you said it's because we made money. So how am I getting hurt because things aren't working out the way you did, but you just sold it to everyone who invests in us that it did? We're the ones biting it, which is usually how it goes. Now, again, looking back at the article, it did say that when they made the cuts last year, there wasn't most of the cuts that happened to the corporate offices. They didn't happen to developers, which I guess is nice in one way. I guess the developers aren't being the ones being kicked, which is, a lot of people are saying is that the developers are the ones going to be canned, but it's more the corporate side. That still sucks for them losing their job, but who knows what's going to happen this time, because they haven't disclosed who all is going to lose their jobs. Again, though, it's just kind of concerning because it's 2 years back to back that you come out and said that you're not going to do something, and then you turned around and did it. And with GTA 6 coming out, it just seems like they said that they're going to be canceling some game studios or some game projects that are coming out. So you're hoping that they don't just cut those developers loose and they just, stream them to the side, horizontal shift, and maybe they hire them to do the other titles like GTA 6. And I think they're going to be getting Borderlands project from Gearbox. So maybe they're going to just move those developers into those games if they can work with those games. It just hurts because you see this as a sort of like a cash grab for the CEO. Now, the thing that I find hurtful for younger people who are trying to get into the gaming industry on the business side is it's like, is it worth it to go and become doing gaming development? Because growing up, I think it was a lot of kids' dreams to work on video games. And our parents say, oh, it's not practical, you're never gonna make money doing that. But if you're good enough, you see how some of these games sell and how they can have record sales and everyone's eating in the company. And then you find out down the road now that they're laying off a bunch of these employees. And it's never the CEO's hurting. Unless it's Payday 3, in which case they made the CEO kind of step down because Payday 3 just tanked horribly. But most of the time, it's not the CEO that suffers. It's the developers. And what really hurts when you think about it is the fact that 90% of the time, it's these CEOs and the top people at the company who sell a dream to the stakeholders, who are the ones investing, and they're like, hey, we can do this. And they're like, cool, do it this way. Then they go and tell the developers, hey, we need to make the game this way. Then the developers can't do it, and it's like, hey man, the timeline and what you're expecting isn't really realistic. And they're like, well, make it happen. They make it happen, the game tanks, and then they're like, well, now we need to make a bunch of layoffs. And you're like, bro, you sold an impossible dream that couldn't be made, and now we're the ones that suffer for it? It's like, yeah, well, tough enough, you'll find work elsewhere. So you look at Take-Two as a company that you think is being super successful, even though we talked about earlier, they had a net loss. But they have all these big games, and you're like, if they're super successful and they're still laying off employees, it's danged if you do, danged if you don't. Because if the game tanks and it flops, they're gonna lay off. And then even if the game does good and starts making a bunch of money for the people up top, they're gonna find a way to be able to justify reducing the company size to then focus on making the most out of what they can without paying more people. So you're gonna be hurting either way unless you're a critical person in that team that really can't be replaced. Your assets are, they need you there. So it's just very hurtful when you hear this information. And I wanted to double check on it just to see is it valid what they're saying? So there's a bit of mystery behind it because they're not exactly saying it is going to be the developers. They were talking about how a lot of their issues going on right now is for the marketing. So maybe they're just like, hey, we're spending too much money on marketing and we need to cut back on that and focus on the melt inside of games like GTA 6 and the possibility of acquiring the Borderlands series. But yeah, it's just it just makes you wonder like what's going on behind the scenes in these companies that makes them think it's okay. Because again, they tell you in February that they're not going to do anything bad, and then the next day or in 2 months later, they're like, well, sorry guys, that's just the way she goes. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. I thank you for hanging around for as long as you did watching this video. Again, I'm going to leave links below in the description section to these articles so you can check them out for yourself. Again, super happy. First video I ever did on the channel that's not about gaming, that we're just talking. We're just talking back and forth. So we're not talking back and forth. I'm talking, you're listening. Either way, hope you had a wonderful day. Feel free to subscribe to the channel, like the video, show your friends, and have a wonderful day.